Hi all students, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the third in our series of videos that we are placing on WhatsApp and Blackboard for you guys during the COVID-19 lockdown. Today we're covering Chapter 3, which is database systems. What are they? Data warehouses, what are they? And data marts, what are they? Today is a fairly simple lesson, and I hope we can cover this in short and quick so that we don't use your data. The learning objectives of today, if we have a look at this, is to define a database and what is a database management system, known as a DBMS or DDBMS, which I will explain later. Then we're going to look at logical and database design and the relational model which we will be using. We will define the components of the database management system, summarize trends, look at data warehouses, look at data marts, and define pretty important business analytics and describe its role in the decision-making process. Now, this is something that I would like you to research, and the recent trends is also something that I would like you to research. You basically just Google those and see what you come up with. Not every exam or test answer has only one answer. Each student will have a unique answer. We will take a look at something called big data, which is what we are using today in so many areas, and particularly where the book is going to and where we are going to with this course. We will take a look at database marketing and its business applications, which is fairly critical. So although we're talking about database systems and data warehouses and data marts, we are effectively heading towards using these for database marketing and business applications. So if you look at the thrust of this chapter, even though they are explaining database systems, we are actually talking about marketing and gaining competitive advantages. The first thing I would like to show you is the components of a database. How do we store the information in a database? And basically what you are looking at here is a table of addresses. First name, last name, street address, and so on. What we have here is a field, another field, another field, another field, another field. We have a column, which is the field, and we have a row, which is a completed address, which we will call a record. So just to make a note of that, it looks like Excel, and it's stored in a very similar format to Excel, and it consists very simply of fields and records. A record, bear in mind, needs to be complete to be valuable. So if you have a look, all of the information has been filled in and we work left to right. So what you are looking at here is a database table. And a database table is the format in which we're going to store this information. Okay, let's move on to the definition of a database. It's a collection of related. If you have a look here, the address information in a record is related, stored in a central location or multiple locations. We will speak about that later. Data hierarchy. We're talking about the structure and the organization of the data. And I think they are referring here as well to the structure and organization of tables as well, which involves fields, records, and files. In a database management system, which is a piece of software such as Microsoft Access, so I'm actually going to write that down here, or a more of an enterprise database system, Oracle that you may have heard of, or IBM DB2. These three, the first one we are using for teaching, And the second two are to be aware of and for research on your guys' part, that you can have a look at what is more of an enterprise database system, and you will be looking at this in second and third year. We have a database management system, which is one piece of software sitting on its own, or a distributed database management system, which is more than one database in a different location. And we have here, so the database management system and distributed database management system are going to be software for creating, storing, and maintaining files. If I go back to this and I have a look at it, we can consider this table as a file that's made up of fields and records. A diagram for you. It is pretty much self-explanatory. You have the user on the left, you have the database on the right. If you go into a bank and you ask for your bank balance, a query, the user makes a request for information, the database will return that request for information. The management system sits between the user and the database itself and will search the database for information and retrieve the information from the database. The types of data in a database, very straightforward, it's just simple learning. Internal data, please be aware this is collected from within an organization and it does not come from outside. It's also stored in the organization's internal database and can be used by functional information systems. That means you would have a piece of software which managers and the directors can interrogate, that will give them information on the sales statistics, information on competition and competitors and so on, and generally allow the company to gain a competitive advantage. External data is a variety of sources. It's not just internal, it comes from various places. And both of these, the internal and the external data, will be stored in a data warehouse with our explanation to follow later. We are going to discuss what is in a data warehouse. Now, although we have our tables, we can arrange them in different ways. In the textbook, they are showing us both the old and the new ways, and we actually only use one of them. The first one is called the hierarchical model, which looks like a tree. And I think if we take a look at this, it does look at it like a tree. It's called a hierarchy because you have parent nodes, children nodes, and other sub-children nodes. Basically, be aware of that it exists. We're not going to ask you any complicated questions on that. Then we have the network model, which is similar to the hierarchical model, but your records are organized differently. You can have multiple parents, and you can have multiple children that belong to multiple parents. This is not one of the best database systems to use because of these multiple relationships. Then finally, I'm getting onto what we are using for this course and the most popular database today, which is called the relational model. Now, the relational model, the one we are going to use is Microsoft Access. And we call it the relational model because it has relationships between those tables. And if we actually have a look here, we have a one-to-many relationship. So one user will be related to many followers. That is coming up in Chapter 4. So I'm not going to go up into too much detail on that, but we have different types of relationships. We will have one-to-many, one-to-one, one-to-many, and you can think of this if you think about families. One parent has one child, or one parent can have many children, or many parents can have many children. It is one basic example of it. We will move further into detail on that later. And I want to talk about this one because everything that we are going to show you from this point on deals with marketing and competitive advantage. Yes, we are certainly discussing databases. However, I think what is more important to this course is what are we using these databases for. And it does deal with marketing and marketing of companies and companies using a database and the information contained within and querying that to get a competitive advantage over their competition. There are two main structures that we use. The first one is data warehouses. So we have a basic database, then we can have a data warehouse, which is a collection of data from a variety of sources. What is it used for? If we have a look here in terms of marketing and competitive information, it supports decision-making applications. Somebody will write you an application that you can query, what is my sales targets for the day, what is my sales targets for the month, and it will help you make a decision there. And it will generate, and a really important term here is what we call business intelligence. And business intelligence we will move on to more later on, but business intelligence, once you have that and you are using a application connected to a database and business intelligence, you will be able to gain competitive advantage through having all of this information at your fingertips. Data warehouses are also called hypercubes because they store multi-dimensional data. You can look at it in the past, the history, you can look at the future, you can look at the present, you can look at it day to day, or you can choose a custom view of your data, and that is called multi-dimensional. Characteristics of a data in a data warehouse: subject-oriented, will come from a variety of sources, so it's not just internal. It's categorized based on time. Is it old? Is it new? Captures averaged data. So aggregated is another word for average. And it's used for analysis. Once again, why? To gain a competitive advantage. So that is what we've basically the definition of a data warehouse. We also have something called a data mart. Very little difference. It is a smaller version of a data warehouse. So it is a data warehouse, it's just a smaller version used by a single department. It does have certain advantages over data warehouses. It has faster access because it's smaller. It has an improved response time for users. It's easier to create. It's less expensive. And it's effective for targeting a smaller area of information. It does have some disadvantages. Limited scope. It's not going to tell you everything that a data warehouse will. And sometimes you can have difficulty in consolidating, putting together information from different departments or functional areas. However, it does have its place and it does have its use. Okay, business analytics, guys, new one. We are using data and statistical methods to do the following. We get some insight into the data, so it's not just data that has no meaning. We gain insight into it. So for example, how many new customers joined the company over the last month? Are we advertising enough? It provides decision makers with information to act on, and it's three methods, and we discussed the three methods. Descriptive analytics. Some new terms here for you guys. Reactive strategy. We look at the past, we analyze the data, and we provide a report indicating often in graphs what happened over a given period of time, and that helps us how to prepare for the future. That is descriptive analytics. Then we have predictive analytics, prepares only for future events. So where descriptive can look at the past and the given and the present and the future, predictive only looks at future events. Then we have finally prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics is actually like an advisor for you. It's a piece of software that will advise you as to you can take course of action 1, course of action 2, or course of action 3. So we are working at a high level of software here that allows decision makers to follow, and it will show the likely outcome of each decision. If we advertise, it's not going to help, because the competition is too big. We need to do something else, like contacting customers direct. Or if you make that decision, it will not gain you any more customers, or it will not gain you a competitive advantage, so it is better not to use it. So we've had a look at, to recap, what is business analytics? It uses data and stats to perform either descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, or prescriptive analytics. Yes, you will need to know the definition of each in case you have a test or an exam question. I would like to talk now about the big data era. I'm sure you may have heard the term big data, and these are extremely large data sets that may be analyzed via a computer to reveal patterns, trends, and associations. And to give you an example of big data, one can think of something such as Facebook. Facebook has so much information about you that they can and they do and they will use for marketing purposes. From Facebook, they can tell everything from your date of birth to when you were born, through to what you like and you do not like, through to what you like to buy and what you don't like to buy. And they will use big data for marketing and competitive advantage as well. Some points about it: it's voluminous, it's big, it is a lot of volume. Conventional computers are unable to process and manage it. You need supercomputers, or you need what they call parallel computer. It involves 5 dimensions. And yes, this is likely to show up in the examination. Do you have to really explain each one? Not particularly. As long as you have learnt the 5 dimensions, you should be okay. We have volume, variety, velocity, veracity, and value. Volume is how much data is there. Variety is how different is it, how many different things do we have. Velocity is how quickly are we getting it. Veracity is a strange English word that means accuracy. How accurate is the data that we're looking at? And then finally, all of these are going to make up something called the value of the data, and the value is what we are actually after. So the final one of the 5, value, is going to provide competitive advantage in the following areas, and I'm going to go through them very quickly: retail, finance, advertising, public relations, government, manufacturing, healthcare. There are quite a few technologies associated with big data. There are applications that they have used, such as Google Analytics, which work with big data. Mobile wireless technology, social networking, all deals with big data. There is so much information they can get off your social networking that they can use to help market and create new products and so on. Executives should guard against privacy, and this deals with ethics. And I'm actually going to type it in here in red. Because you cannot just do what you please with people's information. Ethics comes into it, and you have to keep their private information private. You cannot just use it, and you will see that Facebook has a disclaimer in terms of what information they can and cannot use. So does Google, and so on and so forth. You have to discriminate. You have to be careful of people's privacy. You do not want to embarrass your company. You do not want to take any unethical actions based on interpretation, and people need to keep their anonymous privacy. In South Africa, we have a privacy action called Poppy. Poppy explains exactly what you can and you cannot do with people's information in South Africa. Please do me a favor and research that for me. Google Poppy and have a look what comes up. You will see it is very interesting what they are allowed to disclose and what they are not allowed to disclose about you. For example, I am not allowed to give anybody, any students' cell phone number. If we look at database marketing, and I'm going back here again, right back to where I said let's talk about marketing and competitive advantage, what we are using these databases for, not just what they are. Database marketing is a very interesting and very big one. Uses a company's database, so that will be a data mart and not a data warehouse, of customers and potential customers to promote products or service. Main goals, you guys can read. Increase profits, enhance competitive, transforms marketing from reacting to the market to being proactive. Proactive is acting before the fact and not after the fact. So proactive, let's say predict. You don't have to wait for something to happen. You can predict what's going to happen and you can react. They have something called multivariate analysis, data segmentation, automated tools. Just be aware that these terms exist. What you can do for me is you can have a look at this one, and I'm going to type here once again the word that you don't like called research. It helps you find your own answers and learn as a student. Tasks performed by successful database marketing campaigns. Calculating customer lifetime value. These will come out of your other courses known as CLTV. Conducting recency. How recent? How frequent? Look at the money. RFM. Okay, so recency, frequency, and monetary analysis, known as RFM. Having a look at the profits and what is happening with them. Are we making a loss or are we making a profit? Using different techniques to communicate effectively with customers and monitoring customer behavior across retail channels so that we can sell better and provide better for our customer. So not only are we talking about the components of the database, we are talking about the marketing aspect and the value of the database. There are some questions here which are for you guys. We have posted the questions on Blackboard and on WhatsApp. I'm not going to waste too much time here. They are in the text. What is the definition? How are records accessed in a random access file structure? They don't have to go through a list. They can access them all at once. What are the three components of a data model? Well, that answer is up ahead. What are the 5 major components of a DBMS? Answer, up ahead. What are 3 approaches to setting up a DDBMS? This one you are going to have to go and look at our theory test, model answers, and you will find that there. Online analytical processing. Again, you have a look at the theory questions and the model answers, and you will find the model answer for that. But that is a very important factor. That's why I would like to highlight it here, and it deals with marketing. Once again, Business intelligence, known as BI, also deals with marketing. 3 popular types of business analytics in your theory test. And what are the 5 V's of big data analytics? If I go back here just briefly, we had them that we discussed. There they are. Volume, variety, velocity, veracity, and value. With value being the most important thing. It is dependent on the other 4, and if it has no value, it is of no use to the company. Okay, class, that is all that I'm going to cover today. What I would like you to have to do in order to be able to answer these questions is please look model answers. Obviously, you try to answer the questions on your own. Have a look at your answer and then go and have a look at the model answers and see how closely you match. Please be aware there is not always one specific answer to some of these questions. They can have many answers of which the lecturer will evaluate for you. That is all for today. Thank you very much for joining the class, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you and goodbye.